Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. Please welcome to the stage the Clerk of Kansas City, Missouri, Marilyn Sanders, to introduce the City Council.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for the 2019 State of the City Address. I'm proud to introduce the individuals who work each day diligently for our city. Please welcome the City Council of Kansas City, Missouri, Councilman Scott Wagner, 1st District at Large and Mayor Pro Tem. Councilwoman Heather Hall, 1st District. Councilwoman Teresa Lohr, 2nd District at Large, is absent. Councilman Dan Fowler, 2nd District. Councilman Quentin Lucas, 3rd District at Large. Councilman Jermaine Reed, 3rd District. Councilwoman Catherine Shields, 4th District at Large. Councilwoman Jolie Justice, 4th District. Councilman Lee Barnes, Jr., 5th District at Large. Councilwoman Alicia Candidate, 5th District. Councilman Scott Taylor, 6th District at Large. And Councilman Kevin McManus, 6th District.
Now, all who are able, please rise for the presentation of colors. Following the Pledge of Allegiance, please remain standing for the invocation. Presenting our nation's colors today is the Veterans of Foreign Wars District 5 Color Guard. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Present today to deliver the invocation is Rockhurst University President, Reverend Thomas Curran.
Leadership requires a vision, a plan, and the ability to inspire and accompany the ones you lead. Today we gather to give thanks for the generosity of service exhibited by Mayor Sly James. We also gather to ask for God's continued blessings upon Sly and our community so that our efforts may truly reflect those of the ruler of all humanity. Our mayor calls these efforts the 4 E's: education, employment, efficiency, and enforcement. For each of these petitions, I ask you to respond, empower us, O God. May we turn the page in our schools and in all of our educational efforts from exclusion to inclusivity, from the have-nots to the all-have, from the being marginalized to being valued. We pray, empower us, O God. May our community move closer to efficiency as it reflects a city that treats and serves all of its citizens with respect and dignity, we pray. Empower us, O God. May we continue to create jobs, a workforce, and generate economic development that is focused upon the promotion of human dignity and the pursuit of the common good, we pray. Empower us, O God. May our enforcement of laws be done in fairness and in pursuit of justice that is demonstrated in a right relationship with God, others, and the earth we inhabit, we pray. Empower us, O God. Empower us, O God, and our mayor with the 4 E's, and shepherd us into that 5th E, eternal joy in your presence. Amen.
And now please welcome to the stage Jessica Page to sing her rendition of Kansas City.
Listen to you time and time again, but you tell me just what's right. You tell me 1,000 things a day, and then sleep somewhere else at night. I'm going back to Kansas City, and I love you, dear, for just how long, and I keep singing the same old song. Oh, I love you, dear, for just how long, and I keep singing the same old song. I'm going back to Kansas City. You tell me to come, and then I do, and then say you made some mistake. You invite me into your house. They say you have to pay for one you break. I'm going back to Kansas City, and I love you, dear, for just how long, and I keep singing the same old song. Oh, I love you, dear, for just how long, and I keep singing the same old song. I'm going back to Kansas City. Gypsy man, you're every place I go, even 1,000 miles from home. You don't care if I'm asleep or I'm awake. Just turn this fickle heart to stone. I'm going back to Kansas City, and I love you, dear, for just how long, and I keep singing the same old song. Oh, I love you, dear, for just how long, and I keep singing the same
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in welcoming Mayor Sly James.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks. Thank you all very much. That's very kind of you. Very kind. I was deeply impressed by Jessica Page. I love that song. I was in Orlando to give a speech not too long ago, and since they asked me that what I wanted, I said I wanted them to play that song by the Mumford Sons as my walk-up music. I hadn't had walk-up music before, but it was pretty cool. Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming to and welcome to my 8th and final State of the City address. I won't ask you who's relieved and who isn't, so I just want to keep it simple. I've been incredibly thankful to have had the opportunity to be the mayor of the city that you and I love so much. I am very pleased to have members of our city council here with us today. I'd like to thank them for their hard work, for their dedication to the community. I also like to recognize any other elected officials who are here with us today. Are there any elected officials? If you are, please stand. Please stand and be recognized so that we can thank you for your service as well. I want to thank our color guard this afternoon because I know everyone here joins me in being grateful for your service to the country and to this city. And of course, I want to thank Rockhurst University, my alma mater, for hosting this event. And I'm very pleased to have Father Curran here for the day's benediction. I'm proud to be a Rockhurst graduate where service to others is truly a way of life. And finally, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today and taking time out of your schedules to be present. There comes a time in almost everyone's tenure as a public servant when you contemplate some lessons learned. What should I have done differently? What shouldn't I have done? And for me, probably a little more often than I'd like to think about, what shouldn't I have said? For the record, there isn't much on the what shouldn't I have said list that pertains to either guns or education. I'm almost 8 years into this job that's meant the world to me. And it has truly been the professional honor of my life. But I can't tell you that I loved it each and every day. That would be too idealistic and very disingenuous. But I have come to work every day with a passion for purpose. And the purpose sometimes has come with knowing that I might be on the losing side of a vote and that no matter what I said or did, it wouldn't be good enough for somebody. But leadership means you do it anyway. If your purpose is to make the city that you love stronger and better, and if you believe in something strongly enough, you do it anyway. It's been my hope that each and every one of you might find a way to make this city best and to do it in a way that brings you joy and honor. It also needs to be a city for our children and grandchildren to be proud to call home. Because after all, that's really what we're all working for, and that's what this is all about. I'm old enough to have learned from experience that hindsight is really 20/20, and nobody really likes a Monday morning quarterback unless the quarterback's name is Mahomes and he can show up on any day of the week. I knew he had some fans. Well, I doubt any of us is really interested in listening to an endless lecture filled with self-reflection and a laundry list of accomplishments, but perhaps you might be interested in a few basic insights on leadership from a soon-to-be former mayor. We must all set a vision that changes the attitude of the people around us. The best way to change people's actions is to first change their attitude. If your vision does that, then you can lead from where they are. We have to be accessible and show up. If people can't trust you to show up, there's really no reason why they should trust your ideas or your motives. We should never let politics or party, under any circumstances, be raised above people. Look no further than Jefferson City and Washington, D.C. to see where that's gotten us. Stay true to yourself, and if you do, you will always have a better chance of maintaining your honor and dignity. And if you have those two things, then really everything else is gravy. And you can never go wrong by doing right. That's as true today as it was when my father taught me that over and over when I was a kid. Being a mayor is kind of like being a gardener in some ways. And don't worry, there's really not a joke that has anything to do with manure in it, but when you're talking about politics, the joke kind of writes itself. What I mean by that is that both a gardener and a mayor have to keep a lot of things growing. And you also have to be planning for the next season. To move a city forward, you have to plant seeds that you may never see blossom and come to their full potential. But we build cities for the future, 10, 20, 30 years down the road. We build for our children who are going to lead those cities. Ask a leader like Kay Barnes, who helped lay the foundation for the current downtown revival through projects and plans that wouldn't blossom until years later. She took plenty of criticism from those on the sidelines who always like to throw rotten eggs, but rarely seem to offer a solution or any valid ideas. Luckily, Kay and her allies knew that you can never placate naysayers. It's about public service. It's about fulfilling our obligation to the next generation and making sure that we're doing the best that we can to give them a city that's better and stronger than it was when we stepped in to lead. And in spite of all the tremendous progress and momentum that we've had, despite everything we've done together, and despite the momentum that we currently enjoy, the absolute most important thing that we can do to make sure that Kansas City is stronger for the future is to make sure that we're providing a quality education for all of our children. We're the adults here. They're children. They can't educate themselves. That's our job. It's on us to make sure that our children of this city are educated and prepared for the future, a future that will be increasingly technologically focused with jobs that don't even exist today. We have a moral responsibility to make sure that every one of our children are educated and prepared to lead Kansas City into the future and become part of a skilled workforce that will make or break the economy of this city or region. Some people might argue and say, well, why should I care about those children? They're not mine. Why should I worry about their future and their education? But aren't they all our children, really? This community, this is a community, and we're all interconnected in some way or another, whether we realize it or want it or not. We can sit here and ignore the problem. We can say that these are other people's children. We can wait for someone else to solve the problem. But that child who's denied a quality education could well be the adolescent or adult who decides to steal your car, take your stuff, hurt your loved one because he's uneducated, hopeless, and has no options. I'll never forget the feeling that I have in my stomach that I've gotten all too often over the past 8 years. It happens when the police chief calls me either late at night or early in the morning to let me know there's been another murder. On one particularly sad day, then Chief Forte called me early on a Sunday morning. He told me that a sleeping child had been killed in a drive-by shooting at his home while he was laying in bed. When I got there, I saw the police, I saw the ambulance, I saw the neighbors all out in the street. But the thing that drew my most immediate and saddest attention was that young mother in her nightgown on her knees in the street with her hands in her sobbing face, crying out, why, over and over again, and nobody having an answer. I don't care how many times you see it. I don't care how many times you go. You never get over it. It's never easy. It doesn't get any better, and in fact, it gets worse. There were several things I would have loved to have done to have taken that high-powered weapon, one strong enough to shoot through that house, kill that boy, and send other rounds not only into that house, but through the house and into the house next door, would have loved to have taken those guns off the street. I would have loved to have been able to do that before the last child was killed or the next child gets killed. But because of the nonsensical ideology in the state of Missouri and on the state level, that's simply not possible. But what is possible is breaking a cycle of homelessness and violence before it starts by doing things that help kids grow into people that don't revert to that type of activity. So that's why in 2011 we started Turn the Page KC, which is a collective impact organization dedicated to the single best thing that we could do at that time was to focus on third grade reading proficiency by focusing on kindergarten readiness, summer reading, school attendance, and access to books. Until third grade, a child is learning to read. From third grade on, they're reading to learn. If they haven't learned to read by the end of third grade, 75% will never catch up. And I'm proud to say that since Turn the Page began its mission in 2011, third grade reading proficiency in Kansas City has started to close the gap between where we are and the state average. We've closed that gap by a third in 8 years, and we still have plays to go, but we are still working on it. With us this afternoon are the Executive Director of Turn the Page, Mike English, Annie Watson, the Director of Early Education and Parent Success, and Elle Hogan, the Director of Community Engagement. These people are dedicated to the day-to-day operation of Turn the Page, and they work hard to make sure that our kids become good learners. Stand up for us, please. With the Turn the Page team are two mothers of children who thrived in high-quality pre-K and who are on their way to becoming successful, engaged learners, Miss Tiffany Price and Kelly Beverly. Please stand so we can recognize you. Thank you. Thank you. If we have any of our Turn the Page board members here, would you please stand? Don't see them. All right. Kindergarten readiness is often difficult when we recognize that many of our children, particularly poor children, who by the age of 3 have heard 30 million less words than their middle-class peers. Let me say that again. By the age of 3, a child raised in poverty has heard 30 million fewer words than a middle-class child. Those kids are already behind the achievement gap when they step foot into kindergarten. And one of the things that we know is by the time you get into kindergarten at the age of 5, your brain is already 90% formed. That time frame between 0 and 5 years is where the biggest brain explosion occurs. If we're not feeding that brain during that time frame in the way that we're supposed to, then we are missing the mark, and we will spend the rest of their lives trying to correct that mistake. High-quality pre-K is the best way to reduce that gap and to prepare children to be kindergarten ready. Just by virtue of attending a high-quality pre-K program, these young children have already started on their way to becoming the types of citizens that our city will need to maintain our incredible momentum and build our economy. But what about those other kids, that other 65%, the 4,500 4-year-olds who aren't attending high-quality pre-K programs? These children aren't receiving high-quality pre-K education because of two primary reasons. One is accessibility, the other is affordability. 40% of Kansas City's families with 4-year-olds don't have access to quality pre-K in their neighborhoods or zip codes. Nearly 60% of Hispanic families in KC live in a child care desert, despite the fact that Hispanics are 10% of our city's population. And it's not for lack of demand. There simply aren't enough seats available. For example, we have about 2,400 eligible students, children, for just 1,000 openings at Head Start's high-quality programs. In addition to that, the cost of quality pre-K is out of reach for most middle-class and middle and low-income families. The estimated annual cost of full-day, year-round, high-quality pre-K is $12,000 per child. while the median income in Kansas City is just $47,489 a year. That's simply not feasible for most families. And let's not forget what happens when a family isn't able to access a quality program for their child. Someone has to stay home with that child. And who do you think that normally is? It's normally mom. So with the children being behind and not ready for kindergarten, some women have no choice but to step out of the workforce and adjust their career paths. That lowers their income, that lowers their contributions to Social Security. It affects their financial security all the way through to retirement. So what do? Are we supposed to just sit around and wait for the lawmakers in Jefferson City or elsewhere to wake up and do what's right? That ain't gonna happen. Should we cross our fingers and hope that things get better? Maybe wait another 5 years, wait another 10 years? Well, let me tell you, hope is not a plan. Waiting 10 years means that we have another 45,000 children or young adults who will be missing out on the benefits of having started with a high-quality early education. Education that would have taught them the fundamentals of conflict resolution, of good classroom habits, of simply learning how to learn. Year after year, we continue to fail thousands of children before they can even tie their shoes, and really, it kind of has to stop. This is really on us. We have an absolute moral obligation as adults who sit here wearing nice suits, nice clothes. We have jobs. We drive cars back to our homes at the end of the day. We have a moral obligation to make sure that the children of this city have the opportunity to compete in an increasingly technologically oriented world. They can't do it for themselves, and if we don't do it for them, then shame on us. We know better. We know that high-quality pre-K is critical. We're on notice, as we say in the practice of law. And when you're on notice, that means to the lives of our children, our families, and our citizens, and in our community, we are on notice of what it needs. And when you're on notice, if we screw it up, then we're the ones who are liable. We have an obligation to do something. And you know what's far more regressive than a 3/8 sales tax? Poverty and crime. That's about as regressive as you can get. Winding up in jail and not being able to dig your way out because you don't have the skill sets, you don't have the money. It's time for a change. We must go out and be apostles for our children and get this done. There are many dedicated providers and educators working hard to provide high-quality pre-K education to our city's 4-year-olds. I'm proud to have several of those educators and providers here with us today. If you're a provider or an educator, please stand and be recognized. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You know, I've visited each and every one of their programs, and let me tell you something. There's some pretty amazing things happening there. You will be surprised at the knowledge and the depth and the cuteness, maybe not the cuteness, of 4- and 5-year-olds. They will set your eyes all glowing. Every time I go out to read, I may wake up, I'm not a great morning person, and that's usually because I've been up way too late. But when I wake up in the morning, I'm kind of grumpy, and I get to a school, and I'm going to read to 1st, 2nd, or 3rd graders. The rest of my day is made. You can't help but to smile. You can't help but to have an idea that your day is going to be better simply by having spent time with all those bright young kids in these places. And every time I go to a provider of pre-K services, one of the things that I hear is that they'd love to have more kids. They really would like to hire more teachers. They want to help their staff get more training. They want to upgrade their facilities. They need playgrounds. They need more space, whatever the case may be, if they only had the resources. Every one of them has a waiting list. Every single one has a waiting list of families they've had to turn away because they don't have room or resources to provide for them. We have so many civic and community leaders who are advocates for this, and they agree. And they're working hard to make sure that residents know how important it is to get all of our children into quality pre-K. These folks have been integral in the effort, and I'm proud to have several of them here with us today. So if you are one of those stakeholders who has worked on this issue for probably years now. Please stand so that we can recognize you. Thank you. Investing in high-quality pre-K will allow us to close the school readiness gap to ensure there are no differences in a child's outcome based on race, ethnicity, or family income. And you notice I said investment because this is the best and smartest investment that we can make in our city's future. As a matter of fact, the research shows clearly that for every $1 invested in early childhood education quality, early childhood qualification, you get at least a $7 return. We will support providers, including school districts, to ensure that all pre-K students in Kansas City receive developmentally appropriate opportunities, instruction, so that they can grow cognitively, socially, emotionally, and physically. We're also going to cultivate an early childhood education workforce of diverse professionals who are respected for their work and paid adequately for their time, and who are representative of the communities they serve. And above all, we want to make high-quality pre-K education accessible to every 4-year-old in the city. We owe it to our kids, we owe it to their kids to do what we can when we have this opportunity, and that opportunity is sitting in front of us now. We cannot revert back to the city that never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity. We know that we have the ability to do this because we've done it so many times before. Just in the past 8 years alone, we've come together and made the choices for our city that have moved us forward. We've done it by approving things like a transformative GO bond that will allow us to repair and maintain vital infrastructure projects throughout the city, whether it's North Oak Traffic Way, the 22nd and 23rd Street connector at Prospect, or sidewalk reconstruction in Waldo. The construction of what is now recognized as the most successful streetcar starter line in the country. Not only is it free, it's allowing people to get to their jobs, to enjoy downtown amenities and attractions without adding extra cost. But local businesses have told us that their sales have increased and they've hired more employees. A new terminal at KCI. It'll be the largest economic development project Kansas City has ever seen in the last 50 years. It'll put 20,000 people to work. Within days, Kansas City voting to approve this new terminal, we had inquiries from major airline carriers as well as national conventions who wanted to bring their business here to town. The new Sunfresh Linwood Shopping Center store is part of nearly $2.3 billion of public and private money invested in the East Side since 2011. That neighborhood had been without a grocery store for 11 years. It's no longer a food desert because the Sunfresh store there anchors the corner development, and it's hopefully attracting more retail progress. We partnered with Major League Baseball and the Royals to build one of the greatest youth baseball and softball facilities in the country, the Kansas City Major League Baseball Urban Youth Academy right near 18th and Vine. And they don't just teach baseball fundamentals there. What they're really teaching are life skills. They're teaching development of character. They're teaching children that there are adults who will show up each and every day and care for them and work with them and instruct them and be available to them when they need somebody to talk to or somebody to cry with. That's what it's about. Time and time again, civic and community leaders in this community, parents, seniors, entrepreneurs, students, neighbors, we've all come together to get things done in this city and move it forward. We've chosen to move forward rather than to stand still and remain stagnant because we understand that's how to build momentum and make sure that Kansas City has the brightest possible future. But we cannot continue to leave so many of our citizens behind by failing to give them a fair start for their children. You know, we can build all the hotels and the airports and the streetcars that we want, but our foundation is going to continue to crack under the weight of pervasive crime and poverty, the lack of adequate numbers of skilled workers, persistent racial inequity, all of which can and have to be improved, starting with high-quality pre-K, starting with quality education, starting with my friends here in the yellow shirts with better housing. All of these things are necessary. So you know what? This is our home. This is our home. It's up to us to make it just, equitable, thriving, world-class community and city that we know it is and could be better. The time to do that is now. You know, it's really difficult for me to express just how much this journey with all of you has meant to me over the past 8 years. I have also had the great fortune to work with some incredibly skilled and dedicated people who are responsible for making this city run each and every day. If you're a city employee in this room, would you please stand and be recognized for your hard work and the things that you do? You know, I also want to recognize the thousands of city employees who aren't here today because they're out there in the streets and in the buildings working to make sure that they provide the services that our residents count on every day. All of our success, all of our progress, none of it could have happened without our great city staff, and in particular, our great city manager, Troy Schulte. You can see in this picture that Troy is trying his damnedest to ignore me. And I can tell you that he never succeeds. Troy has been a fantastic partner. And I will tell you this, he is easily one of the smartest people I've ever had the opportunity to work with. The city's fiscal outlook is at its best it's been in decades. And we have Troy and his department heads, particularly Randy. Where are you, Randy? Randy, Mr. Darth Vader, our finance director. There he is. And all of the other department heads. I see you, Sherry, as well. And their staffs. These folks constantly have to do more with less. And each and every year gets a little tougher, and each and every year they get a little better. They get to be a little more innovative, and they get the job done, and they never, ever get the courtesy and the recognition and the respect that they truly deserve. All I can tell you is in the 8 years that I've had to work with people, I don't think I've ever worked with more dedicated people than the people who work for the city of Kansas City. They work their tails off. They show up in the cold. They work all night long. They work for a lot less money than they could get paid for in the private sector. And they do it with a smile, and they do it because they love this city. And they do it because they believe in the organization and they believe in their leaders. That's what Kansas City is all about. Innovative, quality leadership and workers. I also want to thank my staff and our fearless leader, Joni Wickham. You can see in this picture that she is reacting to that last time. There was one of two things that happened there. She either had to admit that I was right about something, or I had to remind her that she wasn't the boss of me. Without Joni and my staff, we wouldn't have gotten anything done. All those great things we talk about simply would not have happened. And they happened because, again, we worked as a team. They sacrificed and they came in when they needed to be there. They worked when they could have had time off. And they did it with a smile because they believed in their mission. They believed in our staff. They believed in what we were trying to do. I cannot tell you how happy and proud I am to have ever been associated with them in the first place. And I want you to stand so that you can be recognized. Where are you? Where's my group? Thank you. So I really can't close this speech without thanking my family, who frankly have probably gotten the short end of this stick for a long time. You know, I'm not sure that any of us knew that we were signing up for 8 years that included 18 elections on top of normal day-to-day stuff. And they have been a steady source of patience and laughs and loves. I see my security detail more than I see my wife. I've missed a number of grandparents' days at schools. I've not been able to go places when they went or be there when they were there. But they have never, ever made me ashamed, sorry, or guilty about it. They've stood by me every step of the way. They've shown up when I've asked them to, and they have been about as good a group of parents as you can ever, family as you can ever ask for. My mother made the trip here from God knows where. She spends time in a lot of different places. I'm surprised she's not on a cruise in Africa. And she's here with her good friends who are also my good friends. I've got my old friends over there, Johnny McMaster, another graduate from Rockhurst, and his wife, Eleanor. I'm not sure why she's still with him, but that's okay. I gave her a family lawyer's card years ago. I guess she must have lost it. And then Brian and Paula Mydell, thank you for being here. To all of my family, Jason, Audra, the kids, Jessica, Matt, and Asia, I will work out more when I'm out of office, but you will not be my trainer. I'll have a schedule that won't be quite so crazy then, but I won't spend it in pain because of what you've done to me. It has been my great honor to be your mayor for the last 8 years. When I took office in May of 2011, I promised myself and anybody who would listen to me that I would leave this city in better shape than I found it. And I don't know whether people have loved every decision that I've made or not. I know that that couldn't possibly be true, that they've loved everything I've done, because they have called me so often to let me know that. But one thing that I will say is that I believe everybody will agree that we are better off now than we were then. I am proud to tell you that the state of our city has surpassed any of the expectations that I could have imagined when I stepped into office. I've learned that we are no one's understudy. We are not flyover country. We are instead recognized by this nation as a rising star city. Kansas City has arrived. We are limited only by our own imagination, and only if we fail to remember that what got us to where we are is by working together. We can go back to tribalism. We can join the rest of the country and start lining up in our own separate lines and putting up curtains between us so that we can't see, talk, or feel, or engage with others. But we know what that means, and that means we start to fail. If we want to continue to succeed, let's keep doing what we've been doing, working together, finding solutions to the problems, not being afraid to face up to them, not thinking that everything is perfect, not being afraid to recognize that we have things that we can work on, but recognizing those problems, working together, and solving those problems. That's how we do Kansas City. Thank you all very much. Little one here, Miss Gray, wouldn't smile. And so I said, what is it going to take to make you smile? And she said, come up on stage. So are you smiling, Gray?